So we're still talking about developments in the oil and gas sector, still focused on commodities, but away from agri-commodities. I'm being joined now on the program by Kola Karim, who is Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director, Shoreline Energy International. Good morning to you, Kola. Thank you so much for joining me on the program.
Good morning.
Well, it's great to have you on the program. Now, taking a look at the data that came out from the National Bureau of Statistics yesterday, we particularly see that one of the many reasons why we've gone deeper into recession is because of the oil and gas, sharp contraction in the oil sector. But despite this, the federal government is optimistic of a better second half. Do you share this optimism?
Look, this is the third quarter of this negative growth in the oil and gas sector, and it's all interrelated with the problems in the Niger Delta, which is the main core of the oil and gas production areas. So from the east to the western delta, this problem's been there from the beginning of the year with the nascent attacks on the pipelines, and that's been a huge effect to the federal economy and to most of the companies operating in this region as a whole. So that is a big stronghold effect onto the economy in itself.
Well, there are ongoing attempts to negotiate with militants in the Niger Delta, but there's not been much success. There was also an attack a couple of days ago. What do you think will be the best way to deal with this issue?
I think what the government is doing is trying to get an all-encompassing negotiations and getting all sides to the table to make sure for once and for all for us to have a comprehensive negotiation that will be successful. The key is making sure all sides are put around or sit around the table in having a formal negotiation that will bring lasting peace and solution into the Niger Delta.
Kola, I know that your company is one of those that has been affected, of course, by the vandalism of some of these pipelines. How are you coping? Because you see, as much as you're in business to make profit, you're also in business to provide service. So how have you been able to manage providing service and staying in business?
It's been very tough. You can imagine if we've not produced any oil this year, you can imagine what that stress is financially on the companies and more importantly onto the communities where we operate. If you look at the oil and gas industry, it's all interrelated. Their services being provided by local companies, their side of services being provided by local service contractors within the communities themselves. If we are not operating, they cannot earn any living, and that in itself is putting more pressure right across the system. What is important is government is taking it as a very, very strong point in making sure we have a lasting resolution to this situation, and that way we could see a future in it. For us as a company, it's been very, very tough. You can imagine we have to sustain all the staff, so salaries are still being paid. Loans, there's no force majeure on loans. The banks are not saying you stop paying interest because you're not producing. So you can imagine the pressure that most of these companies in the Niger Delta are saddled with.
And you see, most industry stakeholders have been looking forward to another licensing round. It's been talked about so much. But then with the developments we have with the militants you've been unable, you and most companies been unable to produce or to mine for oil, drill for oil. It seems as if that's not going to happen.
Look, for Nigeria, it's a double whammy. One, there's a global price downturn in the oil industry, so global pricing is not encouraging enough for most companies to start prospecting and looking for new licenses. Be that as it may, though, what is important is this: the Niger Delta issue also is sending the wrong signals to the global investing community in the oil and gas industry. Once we can get this sorted and having our houses put in order, Nigeria has and will always be a very attractive destination for oil and gas exploitation and exploration.
Kola, thank you so much.
It is a very key market.
Thank you so much for joining me on the program and sharing your perspectives with us.